The morning sun rose over the crystal fields of Kepler 442c, casting rainbow colors across the ground. Tae-min Kim stood outside the main building of New Seoul Station, holding his coffee cup and watching the peaceful view. The twin suns made everything warm and bright. He had been on this planet for 8 months now, and it still amazed him every day. Another beautiful morning, he said to himself, taking a sip of his coffee. The research station was small but well built. It had 5 main buildings connected by covered walkways. The central building housed the lab and living quarters. The other buildings contained the power generator, communication array, storage, and emergency shelter. Everything was made from strong metal that could handle the planet's weather. Tae-min was the team leader and head scientist. At 34, he was calm and careful about everything. He loved studying new plants and animals. This planet was perfect for his work. The crystal grass that grew everywhere was unlike anything on Earth. It could turn sunlight into energy much better than normal plants. Tae-min, breakfast is ready, called Hana Park from inside the building. Hana was 28 and worked as their communication officer. She kept them connected with Earth and other human colonies. She was smart and could think quickly when problems came up. Her black hair was always tied back in a neat ponytail while she worked. Tae-min walked back, inside to the common room. The walls were covered with pictures and data about the local wildlife. Charts showed the different animals they had found. Most were plant-eaters that looked like a mix between earth deer and rabbits. They had soft fur and big, gentle eyes. "The weather report looks good for today," Hana said, setting down plates of synthesized eggs and protein bars. "No storms expected." Jinwoo Lee sat at the table, already eating. He was 31 and worked as their security chief. Before joining the research team, he had been a soldier. He was tall and strong, with short black hair and serious eyes. Jinwoo always worried about keeping everyone safe. "The perimeter sensors show normal readings," Jinwoo said between bites. "Just the usual grass eaters moving around. Nothing dangerous." So, young Choi joined them at the table. She was 29 and their medical officer. She took care of everyone's health and studied the biology of local life forms. So Young had a kind face but tough hands from her work. She always carried a medical scanner with her. I finished checking. "The soil samples from yesterday," So Young said. "The mineral content is amazing. These crystals in the ground store energy like batteries." The youngest member of their team was Dong-hyun Nam. He was 26 and their engineer. Dong-hyun kept all their machines running and built new tools when they needed them. He had messy hair and was always covered in grease or dirt from working. "The new solar panels are working great," Dong-hyun said, hurrying to the table with his tools still in his hands. "We are getting 40% more power than on Earth." After breakfast, the team started their daily work. Tae-min went outside to collect more crystal grass samples. The grass felt warm under his hands and made soft musical sounds in the wind. Small flying creatures that looked like butterflies danced among the crystals. Hana worked in the communication room, sending reports back to Earth. The messages took 3 months to reach home because of the great distance. She also monitored signals from other human colonies and alien ships passing through the area. Jinwoo checked all the security systems. The station had motion sensors, cameras, and energy barriers around the buildings. Everything had been quiet since they arrived. The most dangerous thing they had seen was a large grass eater that liked to eat their garbage. So Young studied tissue samples in the lab. She was trying to understand how the local animals could survive eating only crystal grass. The grass had unusual properties that normal plants did not have. Dong-hyun worked on improving their equipment. He was building a new scanner that could see deeper into the crystal formations underground. There might be valuable minerals hidden below the surface. The day passed peacefully like all the others. The twin suns moved slowly across the sky. The grass eaters grazed in herds, making soft calling sounds to each other. Some had babies following behind them on wobbly legs. "This place is like paradise," Tae-min said during lunch. I cannot believe we are the first humans to settle here permanently. The other survey teams only stayed for a few days, Hana replied. They said it was too isolated and risky. Risky how? Asked So Young. Everything here is so gentle. Jinwoo looked up from his food. That is what worries me. Places this perfect usually have hidden dangers. You worry too much, Dong Hyun laughed. We have been here 8 months without any problems. As evening approached, the team gathered for dinner. They shared stories about their discoveries and made plans for tomorrow. The crystal grass outside began to glow softly as the sun set. It was one of the most beautiful sights any of them had ever seen. I want to study the nighttime behavior of the grass, Tae-min said. It seems to become more active after dark. Just stay close to the station, Jinwoo warned. We do not know what comes out at night. The team had noticed that all the daytime animals disappeared when darkness came. They thought the creatures just slept underground like many earth animals did. None of them had stayed outside long enough at night to see what really happened. After dinner, everyone went to their rooms. Their quarters were small but comfortable. Each person had a bed, desk, and storage space. The walls were thick and strong to protect against storms. Tae-min sat at his desk writing in his research journal. He documented everything they learned each day. His notes would help future human colonies understand this world better. Outside, the crystal grass continued to glow brighter as full darkness settled over the planet. The twin suns had disappeared below the horizon. Strange shadows began to move at the edge of the light. But inside the warm station, the 5 humans slept peacefully, unaware that they were being watched. Tomorrow would bring visitors who would change everything they thought they knew about their new home. The planet held secrets that would soon be revealed. The next morning started like any other day at New Seoul Station. Tae-min was drinking his coffee and watching the sunrise when he noticed something strange in the distance. A silver object was moving across the sky, getting bigger as it came. Closer! Hana! He called out. Come look at this! Hana rushed outside with her scanner. She pointed it at the approaching object and her eyes went wide. That is not a human ship. The energy signature is completely different. Jinwoo heard them talking and came running with his weapon. Is it hostile? I do not know, Hana said, still staring at her scanner, but it is definitely alien. The ship was beautiful and strange. It looked like it was made of crystal and metal mixed together. The surface was smooth and reflected light like a mirror. It made no sound as it flew through the air. Should we hide? Asked So Young, who had joined them outside. Too late for that, Tae-min said. They have already seen our station. Let us try to communicate. The alien ship landed about 100 meters from their buildings. It settled down gently on the crystal grass without damaging anything. For a few minutes, nothing happened. The humans watched and waited. Then a door opened in the side of the ship. The opening appeared silently, as if the metal just melted away. 3 tall figures stepped out. The aliens were unlike anything the humans had ever seen. They were almost 3 meters tall and very thin. Their skin looked like clear glass, and the humans could see strange organs moving inside their bodies. They had 4 arms and heads that were longer than human heads. Most surprising were their eyes. Each alien had 6 eyes arranged around their head. They are beautiful, So Young whispered. The aliens walked slowly toward the station. Their movements were graceful like dancers. They wore clothes that seemed to be made of the same material as their ship. One alien carried a small device in its upper right hand. When they got close, the alien with the device held it up and pressed something on it. Suddenly, words came out in perfect Korean. Greetings, humans of the small settlement. We are Viridians. From the star system you call Alpha Centauri. I am Kale Oth, speaker for this group. Tae-min stepped forward slowly. Hello, Kale Oth. I am Tae-min Kim. We are researchers from Earth. welcome to our station. Kaeloth tilted his long head. All 6 of his eyes focused on Taemin. You welcome us, but we come with urgent warning. You and your companions are in great danger. What kind of danger? Jinwoo asked, moving closer with his weapon ready. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Your small weapons will not help against what hunts on this world. We have watched your settlement for many rotation cycles. We expected you to leave when the first dark time came. Dark time? Hana asked. What you call night, Kaeloth explained. No species in all our travels has ever survived more than 3 night periods on this death world. Yet you have been here for many months. This puzzles us greatly. So Young stepped forward with her medical scanner. May I scan you? For scientific purposes? Kaeloth looked at the other 2 aliens. They made clicking sounds to each other. You may try, but we do not understand your curiosity at such a dangerous time. While So Young took readings, Taemin asked more questions. What makes this planet so dangerous? We have been here 8 months without any serious problems. The Shadow Maws, Kaeloth said. The translation device made his voice sound worried. They are the apex hunters of this world. During light time, they sleep deep underground. When darkness comes, they emerge to hunt. They have killed every expedition that tried to settle here. Dong-hyun had been listening quietly. How many expeditions? 47 different species over the past 1,000 cycles, Kaeloth replied. Some had advanced weapons. Some had strong defenses. Some had powerful ships. All died within days. The humans looked at each other. They had been living peacefully on a planet that had killed dozens of other species. Why are you warning us? Taemin asked. You could just let us discover the danger ourselves. Kaeloth was quiet for a moment. Your species interests us. We have been studying human behavior across the galaxy for 50 cycles. Humans do things that other species consider impossible or insane. We are curious to see how you will respond to this challenge. That is both helpful and terrifying, Hana muttered. Jinwoo was already thinking about defenses. Tell us about these Shadow Maws. What do they look like? How do they hunt? The second alien spoke for the first time. The translator called him Vel-On. They are large predators, 6 legs, adaptive camouflage, and intelligence that rivals your own. They hunt in coordinated packs. They can climb walls and break through most barriers. How big are they? So Young asked, still taking readings. Approximately 4 meters long and 800 of your kilograms in weight, Kaeloth said. They have razor claws and can see in complete darkness. The third alien, who was called Orcs, added more details. They test defenses methodically. They probe for weaknesses. When they find a way in, they attack with brutal efficiency. Taemin was fascinated despite the danger. Are they intelligent enough for communication? Unknown, Kaeloth admitted. No one has survived long enough to attempt communication. They show tactical thinking during hunts, but whether they have language or culture is mystery. Jinwoo was making mental notes about everything. When do they usually attack? Within 2 hours of full darkness, Vel-On replied. They prefer the deepest part of night when most species have poor vision. Our equipment gives us good night vision, Dong-hyun said. That may help, Kaeloth agreed. But remember, 47 other species thought their advantages would save them. The conversation continued for another hour. The Viridians shared everything they knew about the planet and its dangers. They offered to evacuate the human team immediately. We appreciate the warning, Taemin said finally. But we cannot leave. Our research here could help billions of humans across the galaxy. Then you choose to face the Shadow Maws tonight? Kaeloth asked. We choose to try surviving them, Jinwoo corrected. The Viridians made more clicking sounds among themselves. We will return tomorrow to see if you still live. Your courage or foolishness will make an interesting study either way. As the aliens walked back to their ship, Taemin called out, "Thank you for the warning." Kaloth turned back. "Do not thank us yet, Taemin Kim. Wait until you see the sunrise again." The Viridian ship lifted off silently and disappeared into the sky, leaving the 5 humans to prepare for the most dangerous night of their lives. As soon as the Viridian ship disappeared, the 5 humans began preparing for the night ahead. Jinwoo took charge of their defense plans while the others helped however they could. "First, we need to understand what we are dealing with," Jinwoo said. "Donghyun, can you boost power to our sensors and barriers?" "Already on it," Donghyun replied, running toward the power building. "I can increase our shield strength by 30%, but it will drain our backup batteries quickly." Ha-na worked frantically at her communication console. "I am trying to send an emergency message to Earth, but with the 3-month delay, help will not come in time." "We are on our own," Taemin said calmly. "Let us make the best of it." So Young gathered all their medical supplies and weapons in the central building. They had basic defensive equipment, but nothing designed for fighting large predators. The afternoon passed quickly as they prepared. Jinwoo set up motion detectors around the perimeter. Donghyun reinforced the doors and windows with extra metal plating. Hana tried to contact other human colonies for advice, but none had experience with creatures like the Shadow Maws. As the twin suns began to set, something strange happened. All the peaceful grass-eating animals that normally roamed the crystal fields suddenly disappeared. One moment they were grazing calmly, and the next moment they were gone. Where did they all go? So, Young asked, looking out through the reinforced windows. "Underground," Taemin said, watching through his binoculars. "Look at those holes opening in the ground. The animals must have tunnels we never noticed." The crystal grass itself began to change. During the day, it glowed softly and made musical sounds in the wind. Now it became brighter and the sounds turned lower and more ominous. "The whole planet is preparing for something," Hana said nervously. Jinwoo checked their defenses one last time. The energy barriers were running at maximum power. The motion sensors were active. All doors were locked and reinforced. "We are as ready as we can be." Darkness fell suddenly. Without the twin suns, the planet became completely black, except for the glowing crystal grass. The temperature dropped 20 degrees in just minutes. For the first hour, nothing happened. The humans took turns watching through the windows and monitoring their sensors. Everything seemed quiet and peaceful. "Maybe the Viridians were wrong," Donghyun whispered hopefully. Then the motion detectors began beeping. "Something is moving out there," Jinwoo said, looking at his screens. "Multiple contacts. They are big." The first Shadow Maw appeared at the edge of their sensor range. It moved like liquid darkness flowing between the glowing crystal formations. Even with their night vision equipment, the humans could barely see it. "There," So Young pointed. "Near the large crystal cluster." The creature was massive, 4 meters, long and built for killing. Its 6 legs moved in perfect coordination, allowing it to climb over obstacles without slowing down. The adaptive camouflage made it almost invisible against the changing background. "It is beautiful and terrifying at the same time," Taemin said, studying the predator through his binoculars. More Shadow Maws appeared. Soon the humans could count at least 12 of them circling the station. They moved with purpose and intelligence, staying just outside the range of the energy barriers. "They are testing our defenses," Jinwoo realized. "Look how they are probing different areas." One Shadow Maw approached the main barrier and touched it with the tip of one claw. The energy field sparked, and the creature jumped back. It made a low rumbling sound that might have been communication. "They are talking to each other," Hana said in amazement. "Listen to those sounds." The Shadow Maws were indeed communicating. They used a complex system of growls, clicks, and rumbles. Different patterns seemed to mean different things. The largest Shadow Maw appeared last. It was nearly 5 meters long with old scars across its dark hide. This one moved with the confidence of a leader. The other predators seemed to wait for its commands. "That must be the Alpha," Taemin said. "Look how the others defer to it." The Alpha Shadow Maw studied the human station carefully. Its 6 eyes reflected the light from the crystal grass, making them glow like red stars in the darkness. It walked completely around the perimeter, examining every defense. Then the attacks began. 3 Shadow Maws rushed the eastern barrier simultaneously. The energy field held, but the power readings dropped significantly. While the humans watched the eastern attack, 2 more predators tested the western barrier. "They are coordinating their attacks to divide our attention," Jinwoo said grimly. "These things are smarter than most military units I have worked with." Dong-hyun ran to the power controls. "The barriers are holding, but they are draining power fast. At this rate, we have maybe 4 hours before they fail." The Shadow Maws changed tactics. Instead of direct attacks, they began climbing. Their claws allowed them to scale the smooth walls of the buildings. Soon the humans could hear scratching sounds on the roof. "The roof barriers are weaker than the ground-level ones," Jinwoo realized. "They found our weakness." One Shadow Maw managed to tear a small hole in the roof barrier. Sparks rained down as the energy field fluctuated. The creature pushed its claw through the gap, testing the resistance. "We need to repair that breach," Dong-hyun said, grabbing his tools. "Too dangerous," Jinwoo stopped him. "If you go up there, you will be outside the barriers." The Alpha Shadow Maw made a series of complex sounds. Immediately, all the other predators stopped their individual attacks and gathered around the main entrance. They were preparing for a coordinated assault on the strongest part of the defenses. "They are planning something big," Hana said, her voice tight with fear. The attack came like a thunderstorm. All 12 Shadow Maws struck the main barrier at exactly the same moment. The energy field blazed bright white as it absorbed the impact. Warning alarms began screaming throughout the station. "Power at 60% and dropping fast," Dong-hyun called out. The predators struck again before the barriers could fully recover. This time, cracks appeared in the energy field. The Shadow Maws could see their weakness and pressed their advantage. 40% power remaining, Dong-hyun announced. The third coordinated attack broke through. The main barrier collapsed in a shower of sparks. The Shadow Maws rushed forward, but the secondary barriers still held them back. However, these inner defenses were much weaker. "We have maybe 30 minutes before they break through completely," Jinwoo said, checking his weapon. The humans gathered in the central room, preparing for their final stand. Outside, the Shadow Maws continued their relentless assault. The sound of claws on metal filled the air as the predators tested every possible entry point. Then, just as the last barriers began to fail, something unexpected happened that would change everything. The final barrier around the main building flickered and died. Sparks rained down from the failing energy generators as the last line of defense collapsed. The Shadow Maws had won. After 6 hours of relentless attacks, nothing stood between the apex predators and their human prey. Jinwoo raised his weapon as the first Shadow Maw pushed through the broken barrier. "Everyone stay together. Do not let them separate us." But the Shadow Maws were too smart for a direct confrontation. Instead of rushing in as a pack, they spread out around the building. Some climbed the walls while others tested the doors and windows. They were hunting with patience and strategy. "They are not acting like normal predators," So Young observed, watching through a crack in the shutters. "Most animals would attack immediately after breaking through defenses." "These are not normal animals," Taemin replied quietly. "They are thinking about how to catch us with the least risk to themselves." The largest Shadow Maw, the scarred Alpha, approached the main entrance. It tested the door with one massive claw scraping against the metal. The sound echoed through the building like fingernails on glass. Hana was still trying to boost there. Communication signal when the power finally failed completely. The lights went out, leaving them in darkness except for emergency battery lamps. That is it, Dong-hyun said quietly. No more power for barriers or weapons. We are on our own now. The first breach came at the weakest point. A smaller shadow maw found a ventilation grate that had not been properly reinforced. It tore through the metal covering with its claws and squeezed inside. Something is in the air ducts, Jin-woo whispered, hearing scratching sounds above their heads. The creature moved through the ventilation system with surprising grace for something so large. It was searching for the best place to drop down among the humans. Meanwhile, other shadow maws were working on the main door. Their claws could cut through metal, but they did it slowly and carefully. They seemed to understand that rushing would put them in danger from human weapons. We should split up, Jin-woo suggested. If we stay together, they can trap us all at once. No, Tae-min said firmly. That is exactly what they want. Predators always try to separate their prey. But they did not have a choice. The shadow maw in the ventilation system had found an opening. It dropped down into the storage room where Dong-hyun had been working earlier. The young engineer was separated from the others. Dong-hyun, where are you? Hana called out in a loud whisper. Storage room, came his quiet reply. I can hear it moving around, but I cannot see it. The shadow maw in the storage room was being unusually quiet. Instead of attacking immediately, it seemed to be studying its surroundings. It knocked over some equipment and listened to the sounds it made. It is testing acoustics, Tae-min realized. Learning how sound travels in here. The main door finally gave way. The alpha shadow maw pushed inside, followed by two others. They moved like liquid shadow, flowing around obstacles without making noise. So-young gripped her medical scanner tightly. The device was detecting multiple life signs throughout the building. They are everywhere now. Jin-woo aimed his weapon at the doorway, but the shadow maws stayed just out of sight. They were too intelligent to present clear targets. Then something unexpected happened. The shadow maw that had cornered Dong-hyun in the storage room suddenly stopped hunting. The young engineer had been trying to hide behind some equipment when he accidentally activated one of his experimental devices. The machine began playing a recording of human music. Classical music from Earth filled the storage room. The shadow maw tilted its massive head, listening to sounds it had never heard before. What is that? So-young asked, hearing the music. Dong-hyun activated the entertainment system, Hana said, in amazement. The shadow maw stopped moving, but the most surprising moment was yet to come. While the others dealt with multiple predators throughout the building, one shadow maw had found its way to the sleeping quarters. Tae-min had been resting there earlier when the attacks began. The exhausted scientist had fallen asleep despite the danger. 6 hours of constant stress and preparation had drained his energy completely. When the final barriers fell, he was too tired to stay awake. The shadow maw entered the sleeping area silently. It expected to find terrified prey trying to hide or escape. Instead, it discovered something that had never happened in its long hunting career. Tae-min was lying in his sleeping bag, breathing slowly and peacefully. The sound of battle and breaking barriers had not woken him. He was so exhausted that he slept through everything. The shadow maw approached carefully. Its 6 eyes studied this strange prey that showed no fear response. Every other creature the pack had hunted would be running or fighting by now, but this human just lay there, completely vulnerable. The predator extended one claw toward Tae-min, ready to make a quick kill, but something made it pause. The human smelled different from other prey. There was no scent of fear or panic, just the calm smell of deep sleep. Suddenly, Tae-min stirred. He opened his eyes slowly and looked directly at the massive predator, standing over him. The shadow maw froze, expecting the usual reaction of terror and screaming. Instead, Tae-min sat up slowly and rubbed his eyes. He looked at the shadow maw with sleepy confusion, not fear. Then he did something that had never happened in the history of this planet. He yawned. It was a long, deep yawn that made his jaw crack. Timon stretched his arms and blinked a few times, trying to wake up properly. The Shadow Maw watched this strange behavior with complete confusion. "Oh," Timon said sleepily, noticing the creature for the first time. "Hello there." The Shadow Maw had hunted thousands of different prey animals across many years. It had perfected techniques for dealing with creatures that ran, fought, hid, or pleaded for mercy. But it had never encountered prey that greeted it politely. Timon reached for his notebook, which was lying beside his sleeping bag. His movements were slow and calm, showing no recognition of danger. "You are much larger than our daytime observation suggested." The scientist began sketching the Shadow Maw in his notebook. He drew the creature's 6 legs, adaptive camouflage, and distinctive claw structure. The predator watched in fascination as its own image appeared on the paper. "Fascinating," Timon murmured, still too sleepy to be properly afraid. "The bioluminescent patches along your spine. Are those for communication or intimidation?" The Shadow Maw tilted its head, trying to understand this unprecedented situation. Its hunting instincts were completely confused. Every part of its predator brain was telling it to attack, but the human's calm behavior was so unexpected that it could not process how to respond. Meanwhile, the sounds of battle continued in other parts of the building. The rest of the pack was still hunting the other humans. But in the sleeping quarters, predator and prey faced each other in a moment that would change everything. Timon looked up from his notebook and met the Shadow Maw's 6 glowing eyes. "You have been hunting all night," he said conversationally. "You must be tired." The Shadow Maw made a low, rumbling sound. For the first time in its life, it was uncertain about what to do next. The Shadow Maw stared at Timon for several long minutes. Its 6 eyes blinked independently as it tried to understand this strange human behavior. Never in its hunting experience had prey acted this way. Timon finished his quick sketch and set down his notebook. He stretched again and checked his watch. "It is almost dawn," he said to the massive predator. "You have been hunting all night. You must be exhausted." The Shadow Maw made another low rumbling sound. It was clearly confused but still dangerous. Its claws remained extended, ready to strike at any moment. From other parts of the building came the sounds of his teammates still dealing with the other Shadow Maws. Timon could hear Jin Woo shouting orders and equipment being moved around. But in the sleeping quarters, a strange calm had settled over the situation. "I should probably check on my friends," Timon said, starting to get up from his sleeping bag. The Shadow Maw tensed, ready to attack if the human tried to flee, but Timon did not run. Instead, he moved slowly to his small camping stove in the corner of the room. "Would you like some breakfast?" he asked casually. "I was going to make some anyway." The Shadow Maw tilted its massive head. The translation was impossible. This prey was offering food to its predator. In all the evolutionary history of this planet, such a thing had never happened. Timon began preparing breakfast as if having a giant predator in his room was completely normal. He mixed protein powder with water and started heating synthetic eggs on his portable stove. The familiar routine helped him think clearly about the situation. "You know," he said conversationally while cooking, "your hunting strategy is incredibly sophisticated. The way your pack coordinated attacks to test our defenses showed remarkable intelligence." The Shadow Maw moved closer, drawn by curiosity rather than hunting instinct. It could smell the cooking food, but the scents were alien to its experience. Everything about this encounter was unprecedented. The cooperation between pack members suggests complex social structures, Timon continued, stirring his eggs. "Do you have hierarchies, family groups, cultural traditions passed down through generations?" So Young appeared in the doorway, having heard voices. She expected to find Taemin in mortal danger. Instead, she saw him cooking breakfast while chatting with a massive predator that was listening attentively. "Taemin," she whispered urgently. "What are you doing?" "Making breakfast," he replied calmly, and having a fascinating conversation about predator social behavior. So-young slowly entered the room with her medical scanner active. "Its stress hormones are dropping rapidly," she reported in amazement. "Heart rate is decreasing. This is completely unprecedented." The Shadow Maw looked at So-young with interest rather than aggression. It seemed more curious about these strange humans than hungry for a kill. "It is not displaying typical hunting behavior anymore," So-young observed. "The aggressive posturing has stopped." Taemin finished cooking and divided his breakfast into 2 portions. He placed one bowl on the floor near the Shadow Maw. "I am not sure if you can digest human food, but you are welcome to try." The Shadow Maw approached the bowl cautiously. It sniffed the food carefully, then looked back at Taemin. The gesture was clear even across species barriers. It was confused but grateful. Hana appeared in the doorway next. She had managed to restore partial power to the communication system. "I got the emergency beacon working," she announced, then stopped when she saw the scene. "Why is there a Shadow Maw eating breakfast in here?" "We are having a cultural exchange," Taemin explained, sitting down with his own bowl. "It turns out they are much more intelligent than anyone realized. The Shadow Maw did not eat the human food, but it did not reject it either. Instead, it sat down facing Taemin in what looked almost like a social dining arrangement. The others stopped attacking when this one stopped," Jinwoo reported, joining them. "It is like they were waiting for a signal from their leader." "This is their alpha," Taemin realized, looking at the scarred predator. "The others are following its lead." Dong-hyun arrived last, carrying his experimental music device. "They all seemed interested in the sounds this makes," he said. "When I played different recordings, they responded differently to each one." The Shadow Maw leader made a series of complex sounds. The rumbles and clicks had distinct patterns that suggested language rather than just animal communication. "It is trying to talk to us," Hana said excitedly. "I might be able to create a basic translation matrix if I record enough samples." The dawn light began streaming through the windows. As the twin suns rose, the Shadow Maw became restless. It stood up and moved toward the window, looking out at the brightening sky. "They are nocturnal," Taemin observed. "It needs to return to its underground lair before full daylight." The Shadow Maw looked back at the humans one last time. It made a soft sound that seemed almost like gratitude, then headed for the door. "Wait," Taemin called out. The creature stopped and turned back. "Will you come back tonight?" The Shadow Maw tilted its head, considering the question. Then it made a sound that might have been agreement before disappearing into the dawn. As the predator left, the humans could see other Shadow Maws emerging from various parts of the building. None of them had harmed anyone. They gathered around, their leader briefly, then all moved toward the crystal formations where they would spend the day underground. "They could have killed us all," Jinwoo said quietly, "but they chose not to." Because Taemin offered breakfast to their leader, So-young laughed. "The most dangerous night in this planet's history ended with a dinner invitation." Hana was already working on her translation device. "If I can establish real communication with them, this could change everything we know about this planet. And everything the galaxy knows about humans," Dong-hyun added. "Wait until the Viridians hear about this." As if summoned by his words, the familiar silver ship appeared on the horizon. The Viridians were returning to see if any humans had survived the night. "They are going to be very surprised," Taemin said, watching the ship approach while finishing his breakfast. The Viridian ship landed in the same spot as the day before. Kaeloth and his companions emerged slowly, expecting to find only ruins and remains. Instead, They saw the 5 humans standing outside their intact station, looking tired but very much alive. "This is impossible," Velen said through the translator. "The Shadow Maws should have killed them all." Kaeloth approached cautiously, his 6 eyes scanning the area for signs of battle. "How did you survive the night hunt?" "We offered them breakfast," Taemin replied simply. The 3 Viridians stopped walking. Their translator made confused clicking, sounds as it tried to process this statement. "The translation device must be malfunctioning," Morek said. "No malfunction," Hana confirmed. "We literally offered food to the Alpha Shadow Maw. It worked." Kaeloth looked around at the undamaged buildings and intact barriers. "Show us evidence of the attack. Where are the claw marks? The broken defenses? The bodies of fallen Shadow Maws?" Jinwoo led them to where the energy barriers had failed. Scorch marks and torn metal showed clear signs of the assault. "They broke through all our defenses. We had no power left and no way to fight them." "Then how are you alive?" Velon asked, genuinely puzzled. So Young stepped forward with her data recorder. "I have medical readings from the encounter. The Alpha Shadow Maw's stress levels dropped by 70% when Taemin began cooking. Its brain activity shifted, from hunting patterns to curiosity patterns." "You studied it while it was attacking you?" Morex asked in disbelief. "After it stopped attacking," Taemin corrected. "Once we started communicating, it became more interested in learning about us, then eating us." Donghyun activated his music device. "They also respond to sound in complex ways. Different musical patterns cause different emotional reactions. The Viridians made rapid clicking sounds among themselves. Their conversation was too fast for the translator to follow completely. In 50,000 cycles of space travel," Kaeloth finally said, "we have never encountered a species that could establish peaceful contact with apex predators through food sharing." "Maybe you never tried offering breakfast," Hana suggested with a smile. "We are scientists and explorers," Velan replied. "We do not carry food suitable for unknown alien predators." "We did not either," Taemin explained. "I just offered what I had." The gesture seemed more important than the actual food. Kaeloth studied the human team carefully. "Your species continues to confuse us. You respond to mortal danger with curiosity instead of fear. You offer friendship to creatures that want to kill you. These behaviors should result in extinction, not survival." "Maybe that is why we survive," So Young suggested. "Because we do things that other species think are impossible." The conversation was interrupted by movement in the crystal formations. Several Shadow Maws emerged from their underground lairs despite the bright daylight. They moved toward the gathered humans and Viridians. "This is unprecedented," Morex said, backing toward their ship. "Shadow Maws never appear during light hours." The Alpha Shadow Maw approached the group. It looked directly at Taemin and made a series of complex sounds. The patterns were clearly intentional communication. "Hana, are you recording this?" Taemin asked. "Every sound," she confirmed, adjusting her equipment. "I am starting to identify repeated patterns that might be words." The Shadow Maw gestured, with one claw toward the Viridian ship, then back to the humans. Its meaning was unclear, but seemed like a question. "I think it wants to know about our visitors," Donghyun interpreted. Taemin approached the Shadow Maw slowly. "These are our friends from another star system. They came to warn us about you." The Alpha Shadow Maw looked at the Viridians with interest. It made different sounds, lower and more melodic than its previous communications. "It is trying to greet us," Kaeloth realized. "The Shadow Maw is attempting interspecies communication." "Can your translator help?" Jinwoo asked. Kaeloth considered this. "We can try to create a basic interface, but it will take time to establish meaningful translation protocols." Over the next several hours, an unprecedented meeting took place. The humans, Viridians, and Shadow Maws worked together to establish basic communication, Hana and Kaeloth combined their technology to create a simple translation system. The first successful translation was surprising. The Alpha Shadowmaw's message was simple. Why do small food sharers not fear big night hunters? Because we were curious about you, Taemin replied through the translator. We wanted to learn, not fight. The Shadowmaw's response translated as, learning wanting is good thing. Fighting always brings death sadness. They are not mindless predators, So Young realized. They have complex emotions and social values. Through careful communication, more truths emerged. The Shadowmaws had been defending their territory from what they saw as invasive species. Every previous expedition had responded to their presence with immediate violence. We hunt kill only for food survival or territory defense, the Alpha explained. When small food sharers showed no fear and offered sharing gesture, hunting need stopped. So you have been trying to communicate with other species all along? Velan asked. Always we try speaking sounds first, but fear creatures always attack, flee before understanding possible. The Viridians were amazed. We classified them as non-intelligent apex predators. We never attempted communication. Because you approached with fear and weapons, Dong-hyun pointed out. We approached with breakfast and curiosity. As the day progressed, more Shadowmaws emerged to meet the strange visitors. The pack included families with young cubs that had never seen other species before. The cubs were playful and curious, much like Earth animals. They have a complex society, Taemin observed, taking notes. Family groups, hierarchies, cultural traditions. This planet is not a death world. It is a civilization we misunderstood. By evening, a remarkable agreement had been reached. The humans would continue their research, sharing their findings with both the Shadowmaws and the Viridians. The Shadowmaws would protect the station from other dangers and help with scientific studies. The Viridians would establish a cultural exchange program to study human diplomatic methods. This changes everything, Kaeloth said as his ship prepared to depart. We must inform the Galactic Council that humans have achieved the impossible once again. 6 months later, New Sol Station had become the most successful interspecies research facility in known space. Scientists from dozens of civilizations came to study the unprecedented cooperation between humans, Shadowmaws, and Viridians. Taemin's daily routine now included morning coffee with visiting researchers and evening conversations with Shadowmaw pack leaders. His research notes had become the foundation for a new field of xenosociology. The secret, he often told visitors, is not to assume you know what someone wants. Sometimes the scariest predator in the galaxy just wants to be understood. The Alpha Shadowmaw, who had learned to appreciate human music and cooking smells, became known as Big One to the research team. It never did eat human food, but it always attended breakfast meetings as a gesture of friendship. Hana's final report to Earth concluded with a simple observation. When faced with the unknown, humans tend to get curious rather than scared. Apparently, this is what makes us special in a galaxy full of logical, cautious species. The story of New Sol Station spread throughout human space as proof that sometimes the best diplomatic tool is not advanced technology or superior weapons, but simply offering to share a meal with someone you have just met.